U.S. Israel plot against Iran. Ignites nuclear fears and regional chaos. Washington, D.C., June 16, 2025. The Middle East teeters on the edge of catastrophe as explosive revelations expose a clandestine U.S. Israel operation targeting Iran, raising the specter of nuclear escalation and a potential global conflict. In a gripping interview, retired Colonel Douglas Macgregor, former director of the Joint Operations Center at Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe, has unveiled a web of deception, strategic miscalculations, and high-stakes power plays that threaten to reshape the geopolitical landscape. With Iran's resilience, Russia and China's growing involvement, and Israel's precarious position, the world stands at a dangerous crossroads. Colonel Macgregor dropped a bombshell, alleging that the United States played a complicit role in Israel's surprise attacks on Iran, luring Tehran into a false sense of security. "We seem to have deliberately misled the Iranians into believing there would be another round of talks," Macgregor revealed in a YouTube interview, suggesting that the U.S. and Israel orchestrated a scenario where Iran was unprepared for the onslaught, likened to a Pearl Harbor-like strike. Whether this was a deliberate decision at the highest levels or a rogue operation unbeknownst to President Trump remains unclear, but the damage is undeniable. The fallout is catastrophic for U.S. credibility. "No one in the world believes anything we say anymore," Macgregor declared, warning that America's reputation as a reliable global actor has been shattered. This erosion of trust places the U.S. in a vulnerable position as Iran, a nation of 90 million, with a landmass rivaling Western Europe, shifts from a regional rivalry to an existential battle for survival against Israel's aggressive campaign. Iran, despite being blindsided, has demonstrated remarkable resilience. Macgregor noted that Israel's initial strikes disrupted Iran's command and control and air defenses, but Tehran's rapid recovery caught both Israel and the U.S. off guard. The Iranians recovered surprisingly quickly, in ways the Israelis didn't expect, he said. Bolstered by a vast missile arsenal described as near inexhaustible, and backed by technical and material support from Russia, China, and North Korea, Iran is gaining strength daily. This growing power is shifting the regional balance, with more nations rallying to Iran's cause, both psychologically and materially. In contrast, Israel's position is increasingly tenuous. Smaller than New Jersey, Israel faces a critical disadvantage. Its air defense systems require 2 to 3 missiles to intercept a single incoming projectile, rapidly depleting its resources. Israel is growing weaker by the day, Macgregor warned, highlighting the country's isolation on the global stage as Iran's influence expands. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of Macgregor's analysis is the potential for nuclear escalation. He suggested that Israel, feeling cornered, might resort to its nuclear arsenal as a last-ditch effort to survive. Historically, Israel has leveraged this threat, as seen in 1973 when Egypt halted its advance into the Sinai due to fears of nuclear retaliation. If Israel believes it cannot survive without U.S. support, they may threaten to use a nuclear weapon, Macgregor cautioned, describing this as a global nightmare scenario. Israel's confidence in its influence over U.S. policy exacerbates this risk. Macgregor suggested that Israel believes it can sway President Trump and Congress, pressuring them to intervene militarily. "They think they have control of the White House," he stated, noting that many in Washington assume Trump would automatically back Israel in a full-scale war. This dynamic raises the stakes, as Israel could use the nuclear threat to coerce U.S. involvement, potentially dragging the world into a broader conflict. A startling revelation from Macgregor's interview is the linkage between the Middle East crisis and the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. He described a contiguous front, stretching from Russia's border with Ukraine to Iran's frontiers, driven by financial elites in New York and London, seeking control over Middle Eastern oil and gas fields. The same forces that tried to dismantle Russia in Ukraine are now targeting Iran, he asserted, warning that these powers view the U.S. military as an enforcement arm to secure their economic dominance. Russia and China, both with strategic interests in Iran, are unlikely to stand idly by. Russia sees Iran as a bulwark protecting its vulnerable Caucasus and Central Asian regions, while China relies heavily on Persian Gulf energy supplies. Macgregor warned that direct U.S. intervention could provoke a response from these powers, potentially involving their submarine fleets, which could challenge U.S. naval supremacy. "We're very vulnerable at sea," he noted, underscoring the risk of a rapid escalation involving major global powers. President Trump's recent Truth Social post, claiming he can broker peace between Israel and Iran, has sparked debate about his intentions. Citing his success in averting conflicts between India and Pakistan, Serbia and Kosovo, and Egypt and Ethiopia, Trump declared, "Iran and Israel should and will make a deal," emphasizing ongoing calls and meetings to achieve this. However, Macgregor dismissed these claims as opportunistic, calling Trump a marketing genius who takes credit for favorable outcomes. Trump's contradictory statements add to the uncertainty. His flippant remark to CNN, "Those Iranians didn't die because of COVID shots," contrasts with his calls for peace, raising questions about his commitment. Macgregor urged Trump to convene a great power conference with Russia, China, India, and Brazil, and to push for a UN Security Council-backed ceasefire. He needs to stop being belligerent and treat other nations' interests as legitimate, Macgregor stressed, warning that failure to act could lead to disastrous consequences. The crisis in Gaza remains a central driver of regional tensions. Macgregor condemned Israel's actions, accusing them of murdering and starving civilians, which has fueled global outrage. The Israeli contempt for human life in Gaza has profoundly affected the world except in the U.S., where the media barely covers it, he said. This brutality is seen as the fundamental catalyst for anti-Israel sentiment, galvanizing support for Iran and other regional actors. Any resolution, Macgregor argued, must prioritize an immediate end to the violence in Gaza. Turkey emerges as a wild card in this volatile situation. With NATO's largest military and a population incensed by Israel's actions, Turkey could shift the balance. Macgregor noted that President Erdogan, despite his history of balancing both sides, has recently aligned with Iran. Israel could not withstand a Turkish attack, he warned, highlighting Turkey's potent military and growing regional influence. Erdogan's next moves could prove decisive, potentially escalating the conflict beyond Israel's control. Looking ahead, Macgregor declined to predict the region's fate, but warned that the window for averting a prolonged war is closing. "If Trump doesn't act now, I don't know if Israel can survive," he said, emphasizing the need for a great power conference to secure a ceasefire and address root causes, particularly Gaza. Iran, meanwhile, has vowed to continue retaliating as long as Israel's attacks persist, with its foreign minister stating, "If the aggression stops, our response will stop." With its vast resources and allied support, Iran is poised for more devastating strikes. The unfolding crisis, marked by U.S.-Israel collusion, Iran's defiance, and the specter of nuclear and global escalation, places the world at a critical juncture. Financial interests in New York and London, coupled with Israel's aggressive ambitions, risk igniting a conflict that could engulf Russia, China, and beyond. Trump's leadership will determine whether the U.S. can steer toward peace or be drawn into a catastrophic war. The stakes could not be higher, as the Middle East's turmoil threatens to reshape the global order.